And the improv was definitely a big help. There was lots of stuff with Sean and Darren, where I have to give them credit as writers. I give them basically 2 points. So I give them information, like they have to be doing this, talk about that, and end with this. Fill in anything you want. And the guys would literally fill in those scenes for probably 45 minutes just talking to each other. And then later on, after I had to walk off. There was 2 times I had to run away because I was laughing so hard at them. I mean, I was in the bushes on my knees, just trying to ruin the shot. And even when they see me run away laughing, they never broke their character at all. They just kept going. I come back like 20 minutes later and controlled myself, and I'd see them still talking about something, and then I'd watch it back later, and I just looked at all stuff I missed, and it just kept going on. But it was really a lot of fun taking those like huge 45-minute conversations they had, and just cutting it up into whatever conversation I wanted. Half the conversations they had at the bonfire with him and the guitarist never took place. That was like 4 different conversations they had, and I spliced into the story about an H chord on guitar.
Which is actually a B chord in Europe.
They did research that.
US because they use a metric system.
Right. That was all Sean too, that was his improv. I told him, just talk to Jeremy. My favorite part of that scene is when Jeremy looks right in the camera thinking the scene's over. I'm just like doing this to him like, he has more to talk about, let him go. So it turns like, so anyway, and Sean just kept rattling on. He went on for another 5 minutes after I cut that scene even. But I also want to point out that the whole running gag with the Kunstman, that started on the very first day when we were trying to come up with a way to hide all of our labels for products so we didn't get sued for like product placement and things like that we didn't have rights to. It started with a bottle of Hunt's ketchup, and I forget who came up with the idea. We ended up reversing the letters into Kunt's ketchup with a K.
I think it was Eric or Ryan.
Yeah.
It was one of them too.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I have the footage somewhere.
That was a fun day.
And
All of
then-
us were on the picnic table.
We started making commercials for Kunt's products. And there's a couple of them on YouTube right now that are just hilarious. I think I have one of them, but
Well, you have a musical score for it now too. So.
that's what I'm leading into. That joke was so common. There was even times when they would ruin a scene by, if you want, I can show you a great couple of blooper reels. They're hilarious. But there was a moment where I was trying to film a scene that never ended up in the movie between Ryan and Darren had this bottle of Kunt's ketchup in his pocket, and we had a megaphone that I used to direct people with, and he had that hidden way off side. I didn't see it. And they do the scene, and then I see them start talking about something else, but I didn't want to cut because I wanted to see where they were going. And he ends up becoming the character, Kunstman, who comes out with a megaphone and sunglasses, and he throws ketchup people in need for things like that you would never put ketchup on because it's not really ketchup, it's ketchup. Things like pickles. Like, I wish I had a condiment for my pickle. Is this you? I mean, it was just outrageous, but that made it more fun for everyone. I mean, there were so many times I was just getting furious with these guys, but I was always in good hearted because I knew they were trying to have fun. But then I'm trying to get people out of there so they'll go home at the end of the night. And there was moments where I would film something, they would do something, and I would be angry the moment I'd play it back that night. I wouldn't be able to stop laughing, Even at myself, I'm getting so frustrated. I'm like, "Darn!" I was like, "Damn you kids!" But that's why the song came about. That was another situation they were improvising it. I was walking up to them to film the scene after I got rid of the people I didn't need there, and they're just playing the song and singing about Kunstman. And I sat down and recorded it, and that was just one take they made up on the spot. And I can't wait to figure out what chords were, go in the studio with them, and make it write a full ballad. I can't wait to do that.
Do it.
Does anybody else have any questions about anything?
Well, real quick, before I open it up for everyone, I want to know, for all of you up here, I want to know what the single most amazing experience you guys had during the movie, and I want to know what the single most miserable experience you guys had making this movie.
Oh, she's got one. Let's start with Mandy.
Let's start on that end. Let's start back there and move the other way.
Okay, so I have the most miserable part of the movie was when I was actually being beaten theoretically with a rock. It was actually a sponge covered in blood. But the position that I had my head in, laying on the ground, when she went to go hit me with the sponge, the corn syrup, blood mix, whatever you want to call it, started dripping down my face and ended up going straight into my nose, and I started joking on it pretty much.
Well, she stayed there too. Like,
Yeah.
the whole time she's choking, she's
So, like,
just laid there.
She's got cords in her forehead.
Oh, she had it in her lungs for days, I heard.
For days, yes, in my ear and in my nose for days.
So what was the single most amazing experience that made up for it?
Single most amazing experience? Probably just being there, seeing every, being involved in the movie. It was a great experience.
Awesome.
Let's go to Doug.
I was only there for one day of the shoot, so
That's amazing.
yeah, I didn't have, my most miserable experience was cleaning out my car after they got into the car because it was raining that day and my floors were pure mud.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so I had to clean the mud out of my car the next day, but I mean, it was all fun. I mean, how can you not have fun when you have beautiful women and beer? You know?
That's a great point.
All right, next up, best and worst.
Ah,
Not necessarily in that order.
well, I think probably the worst was the fact that I got to play the killer a lot of the time because usually it was just me and him or me, him, and another person filming the scene. So there was many parts of the movie that I was in my underwear. You know, I got to change out of my pants and I got to put the costume on. So I'm like, cannot believe how many times I'm in my underwear with Tom. Well, yeah, and then I got to kill myself. So if you actually look at the shots, I actually killed myself in the movie. So.
Suicide.
Yeah, so that was kind of unique experience.
A serial killer suicide.
Who can say that?
He's
But-
from Band-Aid.
Yeah, I think the best probably was spending all those nights and, it was just me and Tom or me, Tom and another person, and just being able to see some of the footage after we had gone and done some of these scenes and been able to review them. And, I've got to see the film from its inception, go and see like all the deleted scenes that Tom has worked on. So we've been working together for a long time. So I think that's probably the best part about the movie is that I've got to see it grow from this infancy to this final product. And that was just like, every time I talk to him, he's like, yeah, I got this other scene, you gotta see it. So I'd be over at his house or something like that, and he's like, I'd see this scene, damn, we nailed it, it's awesome. So that, I guess, is the best part about this whole experience.
You definitely can be motivated. It was around this never. Like, we
And
own
the house
everything
is
now.
yours, correct?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Is there any stories like, shooting a scene and there's blood all over the place and you're like, nice?
Yeah, yeah, you got blood on my floor, all over the floor. Remember one scene we were doing with Colleen, we didn't realize that we had dropped a bunch of blood on the floor, so it's like going all over the kitchen, like, oh shit, and the cords getting covered, footprints everywhere, dragging it all throughout the house, like, oh man.
Oh, I really want to show them that blooper reel now.
Yeah, there was a lot
That's
of
your worst moment.
Probably. And besides,
broke the cell
yeah, it's my worst one.
Oh, yeah. You can go into yours.
I can go into mine from that if we just want to jump. My worst moment when I was like doing my death scene, Jeremy was actually the one that was lifting me up to make it look like my feet dangle, and he farted on me.
Compressed my stomach, I'm like, whoa.
It was funny, but I felt the vibration of the fire.
I'm just sitting there, I'm like, keep rolling.
It smelled.
What was your best part?
I would say probably, like, all of us and how we all kind of know you and got together, like, the friendships. Like, I didn't even know Amanda when I started. She's such a cool chick, and just, like, all of us just being able to be together, like, it was awesome. And Tom brought us all together, so I would
I
think.
almost lost you all the same.
Right.
They want to kick me out after this is over.
No. If I get another text message, we gotta film this.
I was able to do that.
Yes, you did, and I even asked you.
I guess we'll start back with me then. My best moment of the film. Oh boy. Well, I have one that I can't really talk about, I guess. That's actually hard for me. There was so much on me. I had to be there every minute. I guess really my favorite moments was watching the scene between Sean and Darren. Every time those guys would improv something, I would see it come together. That just made me feel really like people were gonna love to watch this. It made me feel like there was character, and when I watched it later, it was just like I have a movie now, And then I guess the moment I realized it was all gonna work out was the first death scene when we filmed Danielle's death. That was my probably only third time shooting, and I was so unprepared about what was happening. This complicated death scene, the blood pumps and everything, and it failed the first time. And then we tried a different angle, and the moment I was behind the camera and I watched her pump the blood and you pulled the knife out of her, and it just kind of like hemorrhaged out, and I was able to see it. I remember I was like, first the girl, Kelsey, was out filming, and she was just like, oh, that looks so great. She was like, how awesome. And I shut the camera off, I'm like, we got an effing movie now. It was just like pumped from there, you know? I think if I hadn't done that, I probably would have given up. If I didn't see like the blood first and the gore and how excited I looked, I would have given up. I guess my worst moments, that would probably be the the night of the party. We ended up doing 2 different parties at Jeremy's house that were supposed to be the extras party. It was supposed to be like a kind of controlled party, except by the time we got to filming, it was about 2 hours of drinking, and there was no, cooperation was gone. There was no scenes I was going to get done that night. There was nothing. It was basically just people walking on the camera, and I just like cut seconds out of that for that montage. And got lucky, really. But I remember that night I was just one frustrated guy. And, well, thankfully someone came and, you know, calmed me down. And other than that, everything else was a blast.
Me? Worst part of the experience was the first day of filming. Because I'm a punctual person. And Tom says we were going to film a scene where everybody's waking up after a night of drinking. So we had a party where there was a night of drinking. And when I woke up the next morning at 9, you know, ready to go over to Tom's house by 9:30, because that's what time he said to be there. But because I'm a punctual person, I was there at like 9:45. I was all worried about it, like, I'm going to be late. And then I think we started filming probably at like 1 or something.
And why were we late? Whose party was that? Darren's? We had to go wake his ass up about 12 because he passed out cold.
We started filming a day after a rockin' party happened.
Schedule a party.
And we didn't even keep any of that footage. So we were there for a long time with really bad headaches and not much food. But anyways, that was the worst. The best was, I agree with Colleen, just a lot of these people I didn't know before, and now we're all like friends and just laughing, having good times together.
You still sound bitter about it.
I'm not bitter.
In her fairness, she was probably a rap first and ended up filming some very last day after all. Every time I called her, I'm like, hey, we need to add a scene with you. Hey, we need to add a scene. So every day she was let down going, I'm done? Yes.
I did start coming late though. I'd come at least a half hour.
Yeah, we did.
I'm
Like,
late.
Tom never ran on
Scheduling
time.
like
The
15
schedule
people
was
to be in one place at one time is a nightmare. If you're going to do a horror film, do it with a small cast. Because like 15 schedules is impossible to work with. I got really lucky on that for the couple Sundays they gave me. A lot of people took a lot of time off work for me, and there was days where one person would be late and we'd all be kind of screwed. So, I mean, I bless them all for sticking through it the whole time, I guess, you know, and keep coming back when we couldn't get shots we needed.
My favorite part, probably the filming the death scenes. Just whether you were participating or just watching, they were really cool. You know, it's like, you never realize what goes into them, and sometimes it was a lot simpler than you thought it would be, and other times it was a lot more difficult. Like, the very first one we did, he did 2 death scenes for me, and the first one my intestines were all coming out. And he spent all night making intestines out of condoms and eggs and brown sugar, but he cut the ends off the condoms so they didn't actually look like condoms. So I've got this big huge thing in this fake belly, and he's slicing me open, I got all this blood, and he's cutting through the condoms, so I got egg and brown sugar and raw meat all over my hands, and ants are parading around below me, and it was really cool. It made an interesting cleanup afterwards, I'll tell you that much.
Can I share a great story about that? When I was making that prop that night, I'm sitting at my table, I had ground beef, condoms, and corn syrup. And my mom calls me. I have a great relationship with my mom where it's very just communicative and she just accepts whatever I'm doing. So I answer the phone, and she goes, Tom, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm stuffing meat in the condoms. And she goes, oh, why are you doing that? I'm like, so I can film with my friend Darren. She like, pauses for a minute. She's like, I love you, Tom. I love you too, Mom. Like, and I had the biggest hopes ever because Darren and I ended up going on a bro date to a wedding a week later. And I really wanted my mom to call me that weekend and go, what are you doing, Tom? Oh, I'm going to a wedding of Darren. Wanted it so bad, she didn't call. Lost opportunity.